Good morning, Aldersley. It is the 7th of July, and this morning we are talking about plastics and our planet. A quick reminder of the resilience calendar. We'll be talking about this in a bit with today's challenges. It's, as always, fantastic to get your tweets on Twitter, but on our, we pick them up on our phones and we see them on our laptops and so on. It's really great to see what you're all up to. We really enjoy seeing what you're doing at home to keep going with the virtual school. It's 2 weeks left of term, and like my favourite chef says, you've got to make sure that the last dish goes out as well as the first dish. So it's great to see you all continuing to work really hard and do a great job of your work in the virtual school. This week we're seeing some of the year 10s at school, and it was going to be great to see them. So really looking forward to seeing some year 10s. So if you're year 10 hearing this, then and you were in on Monday, or you're coming in at some point during the week, it's going to be great to see you guys. So yesterday's challenges were the first one through the resilience calendar was to put a problem in perspective and see the bigger picture. I always sort of think back, if I need to put something in perspective, I think back to the kind of life that my grandparents had. They were both in the Second World War, and they had, they lived with the idea that they lived with the idea of death for quite a sort of daily basis. And I always remember how happy my gran was to in the end to move to a house which just had like a view of a field. She moved to a house in the edge of an estate, and it just looked over, a little bit of grass basically and some trees, and there was a farm over the next bit because it was on the edge of the estate. But she was absolutely chuffed to bits. It just meant the world to her, and it was so much better than what she'd had previously. So it really helps to sort of put things in perspective. And if you think you've got things bad, you can just sort of, if you step back and sort of try and see the bigger picture, then that will really help you. So there was timetochange.org.uk, explore the resources, personal stories, how you can make a difference, and you were to look through those, and but also don't just look through stuff, take some action. So it was great to see this one. Reach out to someone who you think might have been struggling, and give them a talk, and talk to them. Don't give them a talk, but talk to them. So we're talking about plastics on our planet today. So back in 1909, Bakelite was invented, and it was the first time that a material had been used that wouldn't really depend on growing things or hunting things and so on. When they came up with Bakelite as a sort of plastic, they said it's got 1,000 uses. We don't even know what all those uses are going to be. It's going to be so useful, we don't know. And so here you see an early telephone made of Bakelite, and of course you can probably immediately see some of the big advantages that it's just you can just make it. You don't have to wait for more people to come and chop down a tree or cut you a tree or something like that to cut out the wood and make it that way. You can just easily fill up with Bakelite and just make one more telephone, and so on. You can see you can make that into you can mass manufacture that really easily. And today it's got so many uses. These are just a few, aren't there? We've got inhalers, we've got medicine capsules, we've got timers, plastic bottles, scrapers, we've got CDs. So many. Your clothing, your blazer is polyester and is made of a plastic, so it's got so many uses. Like the outdoor gear, which is breathable but waterproof. That's a plastic. So many different uses for plastic, and I'm sure you were all packaging is a big one. Got some strawberries there in some plastic boxes. Thousands and thousands and thousands of plastic boxes in every strawberry factory or farm rather, all the way across the country and all the way across the world. Plastic being used all over the place, and plastic's used because it's absolutely terrific at its job. It's cheap to make. It's really tough. It doesn't break down very easily. It's waterproof. Things like cucumbers keep for a long, long time because they're wrapped in plastic. So that saves a lot of energy in terms of people throwing away old cucumbers, or cucumbers that have gone off before people have used them. Plastics are light, so lots of glass bottles have been replaced with plastic bottles, and there's a big fuel saving in lorries in moving around plastic bottles instead of glass bottles. And so this makes the next point about plastic a really complicated one, because plastic is so useful, and we all know it's so useful. I'm just sitting here making this assembly. I can see, my laptop's made of plastic, and all the staff got exactly the same laptop, and they're all really good, and the plastic does really good at its job. And my monitor, my keyboard, my phone's got so many bits of plastic in it. It's all so useful. But these plastic bottles, which are really useful and really good at their job, got a massive downside, because the plastic is so tough. When we throw it away, if we throw it away in the bin, we don't do anything, we don't put it in the recycling, then it just goes into the environment. Basically, it just goes into landfill, and if it goes into landfill, then it takes thousands and thousands of years to break down. But what we're realizing is that when plastic breaks down, it doesn't break down like a fallen tree breaks down. If a tree falls down and breaks in the wood, it doesn't. The fallen tree gets rotted down by wood lice and worms and bugs and fungi and so on. They all break it down and they return it to useful chemicals for the woodland. But with microplastics, with plastics, they just get ground down into tiny little pieces, and they just fill the environment. So in that little diagram there, you can see the plastic waste being turned into little microflakes and little tiny pieces. Beauty products even come with little tiny bits of microplastics in them, which is incredible to me. But there they are, and lots of beauty companies now are taking out the microbeads, which they had put in there to help with exfoliation and so on, but they were just getting washed straight down the plug hole and going straight into the ocean, straight into the rivers. And clothing is an interesting one too. If you wash your plastic clothing that was so useful, we're talking about 1,600 pieces of plastic coming off them every time you wash them. And tea bags is another great example. So a lot of tea bags are made of polyester. The bag itself is made of polyester, and every time you make yourself a cup of tea with a tea bag, 11.7 billion little tiny bits of plastic go into the cup of tea and go into your body. And we don't know what some of the consequences of this might be. It might be that, and we have seen the little microplastics cross the gut barrier into people's bloodstream, little tiny bits of plastic in people's bloodstream because they eat things with microplastics in them, and we don't know what the consequences of that might be. It might be that helps chemicals that cause cancer get into our bloodstream and causes damage. So it's a big concern, and something we need to think very carefully about. Microplastics have gotten everywhere, and indeed just big chunks of plastic have gotten everywhere. This is a picture of a bird on an island where the bird has eaten the plastic because it's looked a bit like a fish. Sometimes these birds feed the plastics to their babies, to their young, and obviously plastics are not food. So the plastics just stick around and the bird starves, and this is what's left after the outside of the bird rots away. And you can see the plastic, which of course did not rot away, in the center of the bird there. So it's super important that you recycle your plastic, that you would never throw it away, that you would never let it go into a river or the sea where it can break down like that. But we recycle the plastic and put it to new uses. Lots of work going to plastic recycling. You'll see that drinks companies now are saying that their bottles are 10, 20, 30% recycled and so on. Benches for science labs can be made out of recycled plastic, and fleeces are often made out of plastic bottles which have been spun into fibres and made into plastics. And they're really important. And there's lots being done in terms of people trying to figure out how to use enzymes to break down. Remember enzymes from your science lessons, those chemical scissors which break down big molecules, so enzymes to break down plastics in ocean back into the parts that make them up, and then maybe we could suck them up with big tubes and store them and remake them into plastics. People are looking at types of worms that can eat plastics. or genetically modify them to eat a wider range of plastics, we'd have to think very carefully, of course, before we released a plastic-eating worm into the world, because it might start to try and eat all our UPVC windows and so on. But people are looking into that because plastic is, as you can see, is a really big problem. So we've got we've got a huge plastic problem, but there's lots we can do about it. We can make sure that we're recycling the plastics, can try and make sure that we minimize our buying of things that have got plastics. So when you go to the supermarket, instead of buying something which comes wrapped in plastic, maybe you could buy the loose vegetables and weigh them out. I know some delicatessens, the little bit where like they've got at the back of the supermarket where they've got the cheese and the meat behind a counter. That's the delicatessen there, and a lot of those delicatessens now are letting you take your own box, so you don't have to take another one. So there's lots we can do to reduce plastic. So try to reduce the amount of plastic we use. We can try and make sure that we always recycle the plastic and that we use alternatives. Trying not to use single-use plastic bottles that we've got ourselves. And I see this a lot around school. I see a lot of people with their own plastic bottle or their own bottles made from glass. So those are really great. So there's lots of things we can do. And of course, as we all know, we've only got one planet, so we really need to look after it and make sure that those little tiny microplastics aren't getting anywhere. So have a really great day, Aldersley. Look forward to seeing what you're getting up to on the teams throughout the day, and look forward to seeing Year 10 today as well.